So in this question, we have a right angle triangle as 14 meters as the longest side and 10 meters as one of the other sides. Calculate the third side. Now this is interesting. I think for me, the first thing I'm going to do is to represent this in a diagram. So the first thing I know is that it's a right angle triangle. So I'm going to just draw a right angle triangle. So this is a right angle triangle. And to show it's a right angle triangle, I have to put this symbol, 90 degrees. Now, the next thing I want to represent is I've got a right angle triangle as 14 meters as the longest side. Remember, I told you that the hypotenuse is the longest side of a triangle. And where is the hypotenuse? The side facing angle 90. So it means that this place is 14 meters. Does this make sense to you? Now we are told that and 10 meters one of the other side. So that could be here or here. It doesn't really matter. So I can put it anywhere. So I can say this place is 10 meters. And then I'm told to find the third side. So I can represent this as y. Do you understand? If the angle is here, it means that this side is the opposite, while this side is the adjacent. And you know this is the hypotenuse. Does this make sense? Now let's try to check our criteria. Number one, it must be a right angled triangle, which is correct. Number two, we must know at least two sides, which is also correct. So let's do this. I hope you still remember Pythagoras theorem. So we have hypotenuse square, which is the longest side, equals to opposite square plus adjacent square. Now what's the hypotenuse? 14. So we've got 14 square equals to, what's the opposite? 10. So we have 10 square plus adjacent y square. Now 14 square is definitely 14 times 14, which will give us 196 equals to 10 square is 10 times 10. That will give us 100 plus y square. Now we'll collect like terms. 100 goes to meet 196. So we'll be having 196. When 100 crosses the equal to sign, it becomes minus 100 equals to y square. Does this make sense? So I should be having 196 minus 100. 6 minus 0 is 6. 9 minus 0 is 9. 1 minus 1 is 0. So I should be having 96 equals to y square, which implies that y square equals to 96. But I'm told to find y, not y square. So how do I find y? I find the square root of both sides. So find the square root of both sides. So I should be having square root of y square equals to square root of 96. Now square root of y square should give us y, because like square root cancel square, equals to square root of 96. Now in the other examples, we had a perfect square. What that means is that two whole numbers you multiply by each other to get another number. So for example, the square root of 25 was 5, which is a whole number. But in this case, we do not have a perfect square. So we have to use probably a calculator to find the square root of 96. So it's approximately 9.8 meters. Now this is your answer, 9.8 meters. Do you understand this? Now remember, the first thing is the criteria. Number one, it must be a right angle triangle. Number two, two sides must be given at least. And then you are told to find the third side. Now the last thing you don't want to forget is the Pythagoras theorem itself, which states that the longest side, remember the longest side is the hypotenuse. So we have hypotenuse square equals to opposite square plus adjacent square. Does this make sense?